hello. This is the title of my presentation. I am God, another perspective to VR games. I would say first, who am I? I am not God. The title actually referred to the player's role in the couple of examples that I have here. It's like the player is there and so on. But I am or was lead game designer of Mindfield games. I'm currently looking for new opportunities since, as you all know, the VR business is quite difficult, and my career at Mindfield games ended about a month ago. But yeah, I have been making games for a living for a while, so yeah. And as gamer, I'm explorer, achiever, and mastermind, and maybe the explorer thing is that why I always end up in places and situations where I am too soon somewhere, like making VR games a couple of years before the business actually is big and so on. But previously on VR, about a year ago, I was here at the same event giving a lecture about something I can't remember, and I was saying that virtual reality is always in first person, and I still think that it still is that way, but not that doesn't mean that all the games have to be first person games. It means that VR is tied very tightly to the player's body. You have the hand controllers if you are lucky. If not, then you just have the headset. And that kind of sets the camera into the world, and it has to follow your head movements. So in a way, you are always in the control of the camera. So the view to the game world is always your really own. And that's the reason why VR causes presence, immersion, and it's really good for kind of full body experiences. And that's also why non-player camera controls are generally quite bad, because if you take the controls away from the player, then it starts to feel bad, but we all know that already. But virtual reality is also something else, something more. At least the current generation of devices, VR is isolating. That means it creates a personal reality for the player. Of course, there can be other players, but it kind of excludes or isolates the player from the surrounding world. And that, for example, enables some kind of secret information for the VR player, and interesting things that could make possible is that we could have something like VR players having some information that other player on normal screen, and they have to communicate outside of the game world and try to solve some issues together. VR is also attached. It's like tied in your head and or on your head, and it follows the player. So if the player moves or turns, the screen always follows, and the view is always in front of the player, so to say, or it feels the player's view. It's got quite intuitive, accurate, and quick camera controls. So let's think about like strategy games. When I just see something on the map or on the other side, I can quickly turn around and see the other side of the map, and it feels quite kind of natural, and that's really a like positive thing. And interesting thing is that VR also enables no hands controls. So basically, we can use only like the rotation of head or gaze direction to control the games. And mobile VR can also be mobile. It can be kind of off-site, and but it requires safe environment. I don't think many people would play VR games at the streets somewhere there, because it's a bit too dangerous, and you can go walk under the cars and whatever. So in Mindfield games, we kind of thought about these other ideas of VR, and we made a game called Flocklore. I guess not many people have heard about it, but here's a trailer if we see. Awesome. Flocklore is casual action puzzle. It's kind of related to Lemmings and Pikmin. The idea is that the player has to lead the flock of sheep into the safety in the end of the level. And the levels are small planets that are like placed in front of the player, and the player just looks around there, and the planet rotates, and it's pretty nice. We have quite a lot of content there, and I'm really happy with the game, although it didn't probably sell really well. Yeah, let's get back. Yes, we missed this one. Our design starting point for the game was that quite many VR games, they are difficult to play in regular gaming positions. Like when you are sitting on a couch, it's quite difficult to rotate around and so on. But we wanted to try out to make a game for long flights and kind of constraints there. It has to be mobile. Casual is not a constraint, but you can't actually move or rotate in an airplane, and it feels really strange for the guy next to you if you have to like look at him all the time and do something like this. And so that's something that we wanted to try in this game. And also, quite often it's difficult to like turn your head, so we wanted to have the game like having adjustable centering, so you just hold the touchpad somewhere and the planet is immediately in front of you. So this is the economic class interactions. Basically, all action in the game, it happens in the front sector, in front of the player. Over here, it's like really small area where you have to look at. We have gaze controls, so there's always like the cursor, which is throwing out flowers, which attract the sheep, and where you look at the sheep are coming over there, and so on. And also, in the end of the development, we added hand controls because they became available. And the possible to recenter the planet position, it was really important. So basically, one of the most funny things with the game is that you can lie down on your couch and stare up to the roof and still play the game and just like stay there. It's something that is not very easy to do with something else, and maybe mobile devices, but then you have to have it over here, and your hands get tired. But with this one, you can just lie down and maybe have hand controller and so on. Yeah, so we use this kind of God view to the game world. You still are, the game is kind of first person in a way that you are a god that is for looking at the planets, but there's no special movement. You are not moving around in the game world that much. You are just controlling the cursor, which attracts the sheep, or sometimes it burns stuff and so on. The bodily attachment, like having the head controller tied to your head. It enables gaming in different positions, like even in plane you can do this or whatever, and you always have the planet in front of you, and or can have. Also, the one thing with VR is the sense of scales. And this is quite funny because as this is a God game in really kind of exact sense, it also feels like miniature. The planets feel quite small, and the sheep feel cute, and it has a pretty funny feeling when playing it. So that was that case. We also started making another game, and we could call it here Dollhouse Battles. Really quickly, it was the idea was, or the first idea was that we should make a game that includes, or the gameplay happens in a dollhouse, because dollhouses are quite fun, and you feel the miniature scale there, and everybody has played with dolls and houses or Legos or whatever miniature creatures when we were young, so we can kind of understand that quite easily. And after kind of a lot of discussions, ideations, and some prototyping, we ended up making a tactical real-time strategy game where you control single guys in the environment. And I think the biggest idea in this game was that game space is a vertical house. So it's actually like the map is rising in front of you instead of laying down on the floor or wherever. And that means you don't have to hold your head down like this. And we thought that this might be easier for your neck, and you could play longer sessions because you don't get that tired so easily. Yeah, and it's possible to play seated or room scale. There were two-player multiplayer. It was really nice to have the other player on the other side of the house, and you could see him and wave to him or her. And I actually really loved the gameplay, but now it's, I don't know, somewhere in some kind of limbo. All right, last slides. God perspectives in VR. In our case, that means that you are looking at the game space or game world from afar. You can be like really God, looking the planet from, I don't know, million miles away or somewhere, or then you can have this game world in a like miniature dollhouse or whatever it is, and you are still looking at it a bit further away. This gives you like a good intuitive spatial understanding of the whole mess or the field. All you have to do is like look around, and you immediately see the size and the dimensions of the map or the game space, and it's really informative and intuitive. The feeling of scale is excellent. It's like you can feel it. It might be even like, as you all might know, that when you play like first-person games where the player is set into the game world, and then you can have this feeling of huge scales. You have to look up or down and feel the vertigo or whatever. Here is the same possibilities, but also into the other way. Like you can have the like feel of miniature worlds and miniature creatures and so on. Maybe there's possibility to like nurturing my folk. You are actually a god, and you are helping the little people or animals or whatever little creatures in the world and so on. There are a couple of issues to think about, and what we thought about when we were making these games is like headsets are currently quite heavy, and like looking down or rotating over, it can get kind of tiresome. So we decided in the other game, or actually in both games, the like game world is in front of you, and you don't have to like look down and so on. And also, this is related to like people actually want kind of longer games, and you can see it when you discuss with the Oculus or some publishers that they are looking for bigger experiences, as the market is quite full of like small little fancy job simulators and everything, which are fun for a couple of minutes, but it's not that often engaging for hours or weeks or months. This is still in first person in a way that it's tied, the camera is tied heavily to your person. And then there's the philosophical question, like who actually is the player in the game world? What is his role in that game? In Flocklore, the player was kind of god, actually a god. In the dollhouse battles, the player was someone who was playing with the dolls against his or her friend. So, to end this, I would say virtual reality is more than just immersion. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. As always, do we have any questions at all from the audience? Yeah, there's one here at the front.
Hi, thanks for the interesting talk. I'm just interested, do you think Flocklore could be translated to AR, since it's becoming kind of a big thing right now?
Definitely, yes. It would work quite nicely there, because the planet can be like detached from the backgrounds, and it could work really well in AR, where you can actually see the planet over here in front of the audience.
So are there any plans to doing that?
Well, no.
The shame.
Yes.